Hey guys, Chef Mark here. Today I'm going to show you how to put together a classic Bolognese sauce. This recipe is adapted from our next door bar and grill restaurants. So, being a meat sauce, we're going to start with some ground beef, some ground pork, and ground veal. I'm going to grab a pound of each of these. It's going to be a great complex flavor in the end. The classic finish to a Bolognese sauce is going to be a dairy, milk, cream, or butter. So today we're going to introduce the garlic cheese butter to this. A lot of different butters here. I love the truffle. Béarnaise is great on asparagus. Garlic cheese butter is perfect for our Bolognese. So let's go put this thing together. In order to start our Bolognese, I'm going to start with my three meats here, and we're going to brown those first. But I'm going to do them separately so that we don't build up a lot of steam in the pan, and we actually get a lot of browning on there. So we're going to start off with a tablespoon of olive oil in a pan, and I've got it on a medium-high heat. Just make sure that's covered on the bottom there. And I'm going to do my first meat, which is our ground beef. We'll go right in with that. I'm going to brown this, and it's probably going to take 4 or 5 minutes or so in order for this to brown. But again, like I said, instead of doing this all at once, you're going to actually get some color and some flavor out of that because we're letting it brown instead of steam. So 4 or 5 minutes each one. After I get done browning it, each meat goes into a colander. I'm going to drain off that fat. We'll reserve that and we'll use it to cook later, but we're going to trade off each one of these meats. Each one we're going to brown with a tablespoon of olive oil. All right, this is where we want to be. The meat's nice and brown, got a good amount of color in there, which means we've got a good amount of flavor. And then we're going to drain this off, and then we're going to continue on and brown the rest of our meats, starting with a tablespoon of olive oil for each one of them. Okay, the next step is I've taken my reserved meat here in the drained fat, and I added 3 tablespoons of that reserved fat, and I've added it right back to the pan along with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to add a 1.5 cups of diced onions, 5 garlic cloves that have just been sliced a little bit, and then a shallot which has been diced. I'm going to let this cook on medium low or low for about 5 minutes or so. I want to get it nice and soft, but I don't want any more color on this. So we're going to have a nice low heat. The next step for this is we're going to add back all of our meats to this. I'm going to crank this up to medium high, and I'm going to add my white wine in there. This is just a little Pinot Grigio, just a dry white wine. I'm going to crank it up. I'm going to let that wine cook out until it's about 3/4 of the way evaporated, almost dry here. And that's probably going to take 2 or 3 minutes or so. My wine is just about gone here. So the next thing we're going to add is our tomatoes. And I've got a large can and a sort of medium can of tomatoes, which you can either puree in a food processor or a blender or even a stick blender. And I've already done that. And all we're going to do is add that onto there. And we're going to season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm going to bring it to a simmer. I'm going to turn this on low, and we're going to let that set on low, simmering for about 50 minutes or so. It's going to concentrate the flavors a little bit. Meat's going to get in through there and really kind of mix up pretty well. So 50 minutes once it brings to a simmer. After that 50 minutes have gone by, I've got 1 carrot here that I've shredded up, and we're just going to add that to it. I'm going to cook it for another 10 minutes or so. This adds a little bit of natural sweetness from the carrots. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to chill it overnight. This allows a chance for all those flavors to blend overnight. So I happen to have a Bolognese already chilled here. And the day of serving, what you're going to do is you're going to bring it up to a simmer. And I add my full container of our garlic cheese butter. And just like many classic Bologneses, I'm going to finish this with dairy. So I've got a little bit of butter in there to finish that. But I also do, sometimes it's milk, sometimes it's heavy cream to finish this out. And then, just like any pasta I'm going to serve, with my sauce here, I'm going to cook my pasta, which I already have just done now. I'm going to cook that a little less than al dente. So I usually go about 30 seconds or so from where I like it, because once I go in with my pasta, and this time I have a little bit of bucatini. We have a pisci pasta that works really nice as well. And I put my Bolognese on it. What I'm going to do here is, since I cooked it a little less than what I like it done finished, I finish it in the pan with the sauce. Because that way, instead of soaking up all the water in there, it's actually soaking up some of that sauce, and both those tend to meld together nice. So all we're going to do is we're going to cook this about another 30 seconds or so, And I've got some shaved Reggiano and a little bit of small strips of basil that we're going to serve that on. And another nice thing to do is always keep my pasta water here, so if I have to adjust consistency of the sauce, I can always just hit it with a little bit of pasta water. So here we go, nice and blended. We'll go right in the middle. Bring this all on the top. And then the last thing we're going to do is top it with a little bit of our shaved Reggiano strips. I like those big pieces in there sometimes. And then some of what we call a chiffonata basil, and it's a fancy term, means just some thin strips of basil. Serve it like this, all your guests are going to be happy.